Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
His name is Jack Rudoni. Is he your Bubba Tom or is he your Boo Boo?
Stop this podcast right now. I'm leaving. Hiya, Brady. You all right, mate? I can't believe you just opened with that.
I got dared to do it, and I'm a man. Don't dare me. I will definitely jump at the chance. For anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, one, I'm very glad that you don't know what we're talking about. But yeah, it's a guy on the internet who came up with a song about Jack Grealish.
Yeah.
I should introduce the pod, shouldn't I? It's the warm-up episode 108. It's Brady and it's Tom, and we're previewing the Swansea game. Thomas Bradshaw, how are you anyway, apart from my awful introduction?
I'm good, mate. I think come off the back of that Easter bank holiday, and as a Town fan, I think you've got to be happy with that. I was going into it when we looked at the run of results, going into it thinking I'd be happy with probably 3 points over that weekend. We've got 4. Yeah, good job, Town. Could have had 6. Yeah. Played some very good teams recently, and we've picked up points, which is a very promising sign for the running, I think.
Oh, incredible! I mean, like we were chatting before we recorded. If you look at a 5-game run of Norwich, Millwall, Borough, Watford, Blackburn, get 11 points in that. It's incredible, and we'll talk about like, some of the games coming up because I think it makes it quite interesting to predict. Because it's like, well, if you can do that, surely, can you keep it going? So, yeah, it's interesting. I suppose we'll talk a little bit about the Swansea game because the lads talked about the Easter weekend, but very encouraging signs. But Town are away this weekend. They travel to Wales to play Swansea, who's at 14th in the table heading into this one. They're 9 points off the playoff places. So you would like, do they have a chance? But there's 5 games left. There's quite a lot of teams in between them. So, you'd argue they don't have a lot to play for. Sunderland, who we've got after this, that's maybe slightly different. But talking about Swansea, on Monday they secured a 2-0 away win against Wigan. Thanks for that, Swansea. And they're unbeaten in the last 4 at the Swans. But looking into their home form, Tom, they're not great. So they've only won 3 matches in the last 10 at the Swansea.com stadium. Love it when stadiums are just nice and easy to pronounce. Good sponsors. And they've only won once in the last 5 at home. So we kind of talked about it there, Tom, but I don't know about you, but with this recent run, I'm finding it really hard to predict Town games because if you can beat like one of the best teams in the league in terms of form in Middlesbrough, win away at Watford, win away at Millwall, you look at a team that's 14th in the league and you're like, we should probably beat these based on the recent performances.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there, Brady. I think for me, I think we've got this. When we looked at the fixtures originally when Warnock came in, I think we'd probably said on the podcast we probably potentially could be cut adrift by this stage, looking at things. And it is it's an amazing job he's done. So, and now to have these games coming up where you actually think on paper, you think, right, Town can actually go to these places, get a point, maybe nick a win. He's just put us in such a good position. And yeah, I can't. For once, I'm going into. I think I've been optimistic this season, Brady, but I've been kidding myself a bit most of this season. And for once, I'm kind of going into Saturday thinking, yeah, come on, let's go there, get 3 points. Let's get it out of the way. Let's kind of be safe earlier rather than later for once as well. That'd be nice.
Yeah, it's not the Town way though, is it, Tom?
No.
It's not the way we do things. But no, it would be nice. I mean, yeah, I think what's interesting about this one for me is, a lot has been made, and I think Matt put out a really good stat about, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was about the lack of possession that we've had. So you look at, and we've still scored quite a few goals with such little possession. And you look at this game, and Swansea love to have the ball. I remember when we played them just before the World Cup break. Took my partner's dad to that And I think that is genuinely one of the most boring games I've been to, because literally nothing happened. But they love having the ball. They love just hanging on to it. But we, and though we've conceded a few goals recently, they, I don't know, I feel like you can kind of contain them and let them have the ball. I think this really, I suppose what I'm trying to say is I actually think this game suits our style under Warnock. And that's, again, it's been unbeaten in 5, isn't it? But I feel quite confident heading into this one. But yeah, it's tricky. I don't know. It's tricky. I feel, I don't know about you, but it feels really weird to be confident about Town.
Yeah, I think we were discussing during the Blackburn game, kind of saying how out of the last few games we've watched, Blackburn have looked the best team we've played in probably the last 5 games, haven't they? And I kind of look at the Swansea squad, the team. They've got some very good players, but I don't think they're going to match that intensity for Blackburn. And when you look at kind of how well we did against that kind of intensity, we defended really well. And I to be fair to Blackburn, they probably deserved a point at least, I think, from Monday. So I take confidence in that. I think this Town defensive line, the midfielders can kind of handle like Fulton and Cooper. I think Manning, he's a bit of a handful as well. But do you know what I mean? I think we'll be able to handle them and do all right. So that's given me even a bit more confidence going into this. I don't like how confident I'm, Brady. That's
Yeah, no, I don't. And I think the thing is, we've always like, and you talked about the fixtures. And we've got 5 games left, and how we were looking at fixtures. And you're like, oh well, well, that's the one to kind of target. I feel like, given how mad the Championship is, it never works out like that, does it? Like, you look at our remaining fixtures, you think you could probably win this. You think Sunderland away will be tricky, but who knows? And then you look at that Cardiff game, you're like, oh well. But wouldn't surprise me with Town if we lost to Cardiff, but then beat Sheffield United the week after. It's it's one of them. So, but Tom, you caught up with a Swansea fan, didn't you? Because it'd been really interesting to see what they think heading into this one. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I caught up with Stephen from the Jackcast to speak to him, just about how the season's going. And here that is.
We've lost to a pub side. We've literally lost to a pub side.
Hi, mate. Thanks for joining us on the podcast. So, how's your season going?
It's been a strange season for Swansea, really. A poor start, followed by 7 wins in 9, then followed by, quite a long spell, really, of, I think we picked up less points per game, after 16 points in 20 games, something like that. But now we've got 10 points from the last 4, so we're a bit of a streaky team, I would say. But I think a mid-table finish, all things considered, would be quite a decent season when you look at the bigger picture.
Who's a standout player for you so far?
Favourite player, probably a bit of a tough one, really. I think Matt Grimes has been really good this season. Ryan Manning the same, but unfortunately he's out of contract and going to go. I think a lot of players have, a bit like the team, have been a bit inconsistent, have played well and then had spells when they're not so good. So, that's probably not the easiest one to answer, really.
And what's your score prediction against Town?
Score's a tough one. I think this isn't an easy game for Swansea because obviously Huddersfield are on a bit of a good run now with Neil Warnock in charge and obviously need the points. But we are on a good run, so I think it's probably not a great time to play us. So for that reason, I'm going to say a 2-1 Swansea win.
Thank you. Bye. There we go, Brady. Enthralling stuff there. It's always good to hear the opposition's views on what they think about Town as well coming into it.
Absolutely. And I'm a lot more happy to hear it when Town are doing well. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, Tom, before we go on to the mailbag, we will take a short break. And this is now when I normally talk about Magic Rock and, how you can get 10% off all online orders with the code AHTTC10. Speaking of Magic Rock, I was in there on Bank Holiday Monday after the Blackburn game, and I don't normally do this, but someone actually recognised my voice from the podcast, and they said, I didn't actually get their name, but they said like they listened to the pod and they're asking when the next one is. So yeah, really, that was really nice. Yeah, sorry I didn't get your name, listener, but enjoyed that, and yeah, put a right little spring in my step. And my friends were very happy to tease me about how smug it is.
Yeah, I bet.
So yeah, no, that was good. But yeah, it was really good in Magic Rock on Monday. But of course, if you want to have the fun, the taste of magic, get our code used, AHTTC10. So cool. Let's take a break and then let's come back. Okay, we are back. It's time for one thing and one thing only, and that is the mailbag.
You've got mail.
Mailbag time. Here we are. Joe, Scott actually sent me a question. Do you remember Joe? Listeners will know Joe very well. And this is an interesting one, Thomas. He says, do you think Matty Pearson is going to finish the season as top goal scorer?
Oh, I was actually thinking earlier, Brady. So thanks, Joe, for the question. This is hilarious. This season, and this also is a bit like, come on. This season, our top goal scorer was Jordan Rhodes with 6.
That really surprised me, actually.
Then it's Matty Pearson with 5.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm getting my information including cup games as well, though, to be fair. But it's with 5. Wardy on 4, Ruffles on 3, Rudoni on 2.
That says so much about this season.
Yeah, that is terrible. I actually think Matty Pearson will be our top goal scorer this season.
Absolutely. And the mad thing is, he only, he's been out for so long. He only started playing again in January. So, yeah, just delving into that a bit more. 5 goals in 13 games, and he's averaging a goal every 191 minutes. So with 5 games left, I could do quick maths. But you imagine he'll get at least another goal.
So
and
he's
in a bit of form at the moment, isn't he?
He is. Goal conversion rate 63%. Like, those numbers are mad. Like, I don't even think Thierry Henry was on those kind of numbers.
That's incredible. Stick him up front. Yeah, no, he's Tom. He's just been great, hasn't he? He's just been like so good under Warnock, and I know Warnock keeps teasing him about that penalty against West Brom, but he's responded so great to it since then, hasn't he?
He has. Well, if that's the reason for it, keep mentioning it, Neil. If it's driving him on to get a goal every game. So, I mean, Matty Pearson has almost been as instrumental as Neil Warnock, I'd say, really, when you put it out on paper. It's just been so good to have him back in that team. So, yeah, keep it up. And I was, when I heard the question, I was jokingly thinking, oh, yeah. But, yeah, he's going to do it, isn't he? Yeah. He's had 8 shots this season, Brady, and scored 5 goals.
I think that says a lot about talent as well that's coming.
Yeah.
No, brilliant. Yeah, no, I think, and the other thing is, if, for whatever reason, Warnock's not picking Rhodes, is he? So, it's not like Jordan's. Although, I would like to see Jordan, because how many goals is he on now for Town? He's not far off 100.
He's not far off 100. I feel like last time I checked that, was he on like 80 odd?
No, he's on like 90 something, isn't he?
Is he in the 90s now?
97. He's really, he's not far off. But it doesn't look like Rhodes is going to play, because it's, Warnock's favourite is Danny Ward. So, who, again, another player who's done exceptionally well recently, in my opinion. Okay, cool. Another player we're going to talk about who did very well, and this is one of the questions. Again, James, because I was, at the game with him on Easter Monday, he was talking about a Jack Rudoni chant. This is maybe one more for the cowshed, but he said, would you prefer a Man U style rude like Van Nistelrooy, or do you prefer the specials, a message to you, Rudy type chant? I mean, I did the Jack Rudoni, which Tom wasn't a fan of.
Yeah, that's terrible.
You looked at me with such venom then. I wasn't even bringing it up. But yeah, what type of chant would you want for our boy? I'm calling him our boy, Jack Rudoni, because we've been championing him to get his first goal for Town for quite some time.
I'd want some catchy. I mean, the rude one's good in it, like rude, but do you know what I mean? That's not a chant. That's just shouting.
Aren't most chants just shouting?
Yeah, I'd want something with a bit of something catchy. I can't think off the top of my head. I wish I'd have heard this earlier. I might have come up with a few suggestions.
That's fine.
But you should definitely put that out as a tweet and see if anyone has any. Because I think there's a few players that don't have chance that could get a couple really as well. So
yeah, I mean, again, with this sounds like I'm being like criticizing fan chants, but I feel like there are always songs that are like 20 years old. So Kaiser Chiefs, Ruby, Ruby, Ruby. I could see that. Like, yeah, Ruby,
that
Ruby.
works actually. Yeah.
There you go. If Cowshed starts singing that, I want you to at the end of it shout copyright Brady Frost. Kaiser Chiefs. Trying to think what else. Yeah, I don't know. I always like the ones that have got a bit of I like a bit of humour in them. Like you know, I know Lewis O'Brien didn't like his Factor 50 chant, but I thought that was quite funny.
Yeah.
So but yeah, no, anyway, like in all seriousness, doing a Frank Lampard transition there for you. I want to talk about Jack Rudoni because I know we've been championing him a lot, but I feel like, you know, and we saw that into that video of him with his family after the Watford game. I'm so pleased for him, Tom. I don't know about you.
Yeah, buzzing. I mean, we said it all season. We've said it. As soon as he gets one, they'll start coming, and he's on 2-2. So let's hope he gets a couple more before the season finishes. I mean, he's only 4 goals off top goal scorer, so I'm buzzing for him because I think that's it's been a really tough season for everyone. Been a tough season for him. Big step up. I don't think he was potentially expecting to play as many games as this season. And he's done a lot other than score, and it's just really nice to see kind of that hard work come off for him, and hopefully he can build on that next season in the Championship with us.
Definitely, and I think the reason, you know, we've been sticking up for him, and you know he's coming for criticism, is I do just think he's had to do a lot of hard work. Like you say, he's played a lot of games. I think isn't he the player who's played the most games for us this season?
I cannot remember the last time he wasn't in the squad.
Yeah, so, and he's just been used in so many different positions. And, you know, I think Matt was talking about it, but this kind of role he played against Blackburn, where it's like the number 10/second striker, that's what he was playing at Wimbledon as well, as like on the left. And they're just, it's no surprise that when he's got a bit of confidence and the team's playing well, that he plays well as well. And, you know, looking ahead to the summer, and there's a lot of ifs, buts, and see what happens. But I just think if he had a couple more, you know, decent midfield partners next to him, I think he could really flourish and really go on a run because, you know, there's a lot I like about him. There's a lot that I think he does great. I mean, his work ethic's really good as well, which when you think of creative players, you don't always associate that. And I think, you know, he never stops running, always contributes to the team. And, you know, when we signed him, he looked like a player who had high potential. But, you know, is it too early, you know, to expect him to do this? But he's really kind of kicked on the last couple of games, and hopefully, you know, he could have a great season next season. And I think we'd all really like that for him. So, you know, I think I'm really pleased for him. We'll have to call this pod the you know, Rudoni Love Fest at this rate. But just thought we should highlight him.
No, definitely, Brady, definitely.
Fantastic. So, Tom, here's one, because we're doing this very off the cuff, and I forgot to do the shout for the mailbag. So I'm going to ask you, or should we say, Brady Brost asked this question to you, Tom. He's not worded it well, so I'll need to have a word with him. But after the Watford game, we saw a very familiar Town fan, a famous Town fan, who talks like this. That was my impression of Patrick Stewart. However, I saw he got quite a bit of criticism from, again, I say quite a bit, some criticism from online, and is it a case of shouting the loudest? I wanted to get your opinion on it, because I was chatting to a couple of Town fans, and some people weren't bothered, and some were frustrated at Patrick because he only turns up to town games occasionally and when we're doing well. And I just wanted to see where that sits with you, basically.
To be blunt, I'd say grow up to kind of people who get wound up by things like that. It's like, if that's winding you up, then come on, you need to just chill out a bit, really. Like, Patrick Stewart was there when we were in the shitter, basically, wasn't he? Back in 2002 administration year, season, all that rubbish. He also lives in LA, doesn't he? So it's like, I don't know what you kind of are expecting from him. And then my third point is, if he's turning up, the town media are never not gonna highlight that he's at the game. Like, it's always gonna happen. So yeah, that's my take on it, Brady. I think there's more things to worry about with the world in general and Huddersfield Town at the moment. Like, let's take all that energy onto just kind of staying up this season more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, listeners will be shocked to hear that I agree with you. Shock. Me and Tom agreeing on stuff. What? But yeah, I think the thing that struck me was, and again, I'm not saying that it was all town fans and it was just, just a couple of people on the line, and maybe you should take it with a pinch of salt. We just had an incredible win against Watford. It was such a great result, and I know it was 3-2 at the end, but it was an entertaining game. Like, a lot happened in it, and I just think, like, if you're still wanting to complain about something, like you say, like, I don't think he even lives in the country, and I'm like, so what? Because like, if he only comes to occasional games or when we've started doing well, like, let's be honest, we're all talking about that, and Cosy made a good point. It's like, at the Norwich game, how many people were there? Like, a midweek game that was a bit rubbish. We were down, like, he reckons there were less than 8,000. Well, like, we were there on Easter Monday. It was absolutely packed because we're doing well. So,
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a divisive issue, but I really struggle with, and I know you're kind of in the same, same crowd as me with this, but I really struggle with people deciding who's a proper fan and who's a true fan, because, like, everyone's circumstances are different, whether you're famous or not famous. Like, you can support your team however you want to support it, and I don't think you have a right to decide who or how people can support their club, because it's just as much their club it is yours or mine.
Yeah, exactly, Brady. I think just some people who do, and like, you commend people who are literally at every home and away game, etc. Some people in that bracket do it's just one of those, isn't it? They get a bit, yeah, you're not a real fan.
Yeah.
But look, it's just, yeah, that's my thing. Like, just your big babies.
Sorry, I'm using that Roy Keane far too much, but it's great. It's great.
Yeah, but if he's coming, if he's back in the country and coming, it'd be great to see him pop in and maybe do a little halftime talk or something. Yeah. How old is he now, actually, Patrick Stewart? He must be
Tom, you're doing a lot of questions to me that I have to Google during the podcast.
Pushing 80.
He's an old man, isn't he?
Yeah.
That's much I know. He is 82.
82.
He looks good for 82,
He does. Yeah.
So there you go, Patrick. Well, I'll tell you what, if you're 82 and you can still make the odd game, fair play.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. So, yeah, anyway. Anything else you want to say about that, Tom? Do you like Star Trek?
I've never watched Star Trek. I think I've always been a Star Wars fan. If I was, are you a Trekkie, Brady?
No, I'm not a Trekkie. I've not really seen Star Trek, but I do like Patrick Stewart. So
it's like the bit from not The Office. Sorry. Oh, cut this.
This is all staying
extras where he is like, have you ever seen Star Trek? You're a single man. You live on your own, and you're not married.
That was great. So lay off Patrick. That's what me and Tom are saying. Let's move on before we get any more pelters from town fans.
Yeah.
The snowflakes sticking up for old men. Okay, so the lineup against Blackburn, it was quite a few different reports on this. I'm going to go with BBC Sport, even though BBC Sport have been very interestingly, unreliable before kick-off. My favourite was when, I can't remember what game it was, but they had Matty Pearson in the front two with Wood. But as we say, he is our top goal scorer in the team at the moment, so fair enough. But they went with a 5-4-1 in that game. So it was Pearson, Lees, Hellick, Ruffles, Koroma as your back five, and then you had Hungbo, Hogg, Rudoni, Kasumu, and Danny Ward up front, and Vlasic in goal. Vlasic, I thought, was incredible against Blackburn, Tom.
Yes.
If we're talking about players, I thought he made some incredible saves, and he was very, I know that one at the end, he parried and the guy followed it in. But
It's very unlucky. I think it was one of those where the header wasn't that good.
No.
And because it wasn't further to the side, I think Vaslik has dived and he's almost been forced to push it out rather than to the side. It's just a shame that if the header just had a little bit off it, he'd have probably claimed it. The only thing the good about that header was the power on it, and then it's caused the direction of the save. I think it's such a shame, but yeah, really good, really. I'm so pleased that he's here, just to see us kind of for these last few games, because without Nichols we were struggling, and now to have him, yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, and we said last pod, didn't we, that if all parties were interested, you would keep him for next season, despite Nichols still being number one. But you did also make the point that he could still have a really big part to play, and getting a couple of clean sheets would help. He didn't get a clean sheet in that game, but I think he definitely proved he's a quality keeper.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So that's why you're putting Billy Kapic in net for this one, isn't it?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So what would you go for this game against Swansea? Would you make any changes? Because I have to say, I don't know if it's just.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Brady, but Swansea, do they like to play 4-3-3?
Yeah.
And they like to keep the ball a lot, which I think Blackburn like to have the ball, but Blackburn were very direct and they were very good at the press.
Mm.
Whereas from when I've seen bits of Swansea, they're just a little bit. It's kind of all about the build-up, isn't it? And
yeah,
I think Warnock's going to look at it and be like, "Oh, if they want to keep the ball, bloody hell, let them keep the ball." I know, and I, to be honest, that probably frustrates the home fans a little bit if they're not getting anywhere, and Town are just being one of those annoying teams that just stops them doing anything. I mean, Blackburn pretty much set up with a 4-3-3 as well, didn't they? It was a bit more of I think Dolan was playing a bit higher.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a similar-ish lineup, which it looked at points. I didn't know what it looked like. At points, it looked like we had 7 at the back. But was it like a 5-4-1? Possibly.
Yeah, that's what they're reporting. Yeah.
Yeah. But there was points where Ruffles and Koroma. Honestly, I think you probably had about 4 different formations throughout the game, which is actually really good to see, that the players do look like they know what they're doing. So they're obviously listening to Warnock, and certain parts of the game you've got to go into this, blah blah blah. So I'd probably say that it'd be somewhat similar. So we had Vaslik, and then back 5 Pearson, Lees, Hellick, Ruffles, Koroma. And then the 4 of Hungbo, Hogg, Rudoni, and Kasumu. And then Ward up top.
Yeah.
I think Reg was unlucky to miss out. So, and looking at the Swansea team, I'd maybe bring Reg back in, because I think what he has done well is dropping him on someone.
Mm.
And I'd almost be like, right, Reg, you're on Grimes.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Matt Grimes, in that game we played at home, he's a player I really like, and I'd love at Town. because he's a metronome, isn't he? He just makes everything tick. So yeah, that's a change I'd make. Bring Reg in, put him on.
Would you bring him in for Hungbo or Kasumu?
I think I'd probably do what we did against Middlesbrough. So I'd go 4-2-3-1. So Pearson, Rees, Hellick, Ruffles. I'd have Hogg and Reg.
Yeah.
And then I'd probably keep Hungbo and have Rudoni and Kuroma with Ward up top. And then I just think Kasumu.
I think you're right there, Brady, as well, with the Middlesbrough formation. Probably closer to that.
I think you can get at Swansea more. I know we scored 4 goals against Middlesbrough, so that sounds weird, but I do think you can catch them. I don't think they're defensively as strong as like some of the teams we've played recently. So would try and be a bit more on the front foot. I think I'd like to see us go. I think we should go for this. Not that we haven't in the other games, but this one looks a bit easier on paper. Like they're going to have a lot of the ball, but we saw what happened with Blackburn at the start. We can sucker punch them. And I think if we, for example, if we got into a 2-0 lead against Swansea, I don't think they'd come back in the way Blackburn did. I think that's what I'd go for. Kasumi, for me, he didn't have the best game against Blackburn, but he's filled in a lot of roles and he has been quite good recently. And, this is bearing in mind that played at Watford and that's what, two games in 4 days. So, I don't know. I think he just drops to the bench. But, I think, like you said, Reg's probably a bit knackered, but I'd bring back in for this one.
Yeah, agreed. Sorted then. Sorted, Brady. Send that off to Neil.
He's already got it, mate. He doesn't need us to send it.
Good. Yeah.
What are you going then for match prediction for this one?
I think we can win the game. I think we will win the game. Oh, I think for me, would you another clean sheet?
How do you think?
So I think 1-0 win.
Ooh.
I think it could be very similar to Millwall.
Who's getting that one? Who's getting the all-important goal?
Jack Rudoni, 3-3.
Yes. Yeah. Jack, we're going to keep backing you. I still think even though we're good defensively, I could see us conceding in this, but I've gone for a 2-1 win. I've also gone for Rudoni to get one of these, and I think Kuroma might score in this because I think he was very good against Borough. And it's just Do you remember when we said about playing him in the team and people were like, no, it's done. He's proved us all wrong, hasn't he? So he's been incredible. So I don't know. There's just so many good positives to talk about, Tom. We could do this all day. But look at that. We've both gone for a win. Oh, and it would be great if we could have that because, like you say, I would love to go into the final game this season and not to be stressing.
Yeah, it's be quite an interesting atmosphere, won't it, actually, on Saturday? Because I think quite a few Swansea fans wouldn't mind seeing us beat them.
Yeah, if it affects Cardiff.
Because they're safe and they'd have to go on a hell of a run to still make the playoffs, really, in reality. So I think, it would be quite interesting, especially if Cardiff are losing and everyone's looking at the phones. Yeah. And it's like you could really, hit them where they hurt.
That's a really good point. In fact, you've set me up nicely because we'll come on to Quaner's question.
A few things change, but also a lot of things are still the same.
So Quaner's question this week was, do you focus on just Huddersfield's results or do you check our relegation rivals fixtures as well? I'm going to ask for your opinion, Tom, but I think I pretty much know anything we're the same. But I'll just read some of the ones that we got through. Tony up north says, I watch all the rivals' results and get far too happy / annoyed at the outcomes. Mr. Wittervik says, I check all results. I had a little giggle last night when Preston scored and shouted at a West Brom supporting mate when they drew with QPR. Oh my God. I saw, obviously, QPR, been terrible sinking like a stone. Did you see the air equaliser?
I've not seen it.
Keeper kicked it into the player trying to clear it, went into an empty net. Thanks for that, Carlos. Tom, get booing him. Get booing Corberan.
Boom.
Lovely. Goreng says, started looking at other results when we started winning. Before that, there seemed to be no pointers. I definitely thought we were going down. Yeah, I think we agree with you then. Yeah, and he says, does anyone think Reading and QPR are both going to win 2 games each? If not, we're almost there. That's a really good point because obviously Paul Ince has been sacked from Reading as they sit in the relegation zone. I was speaking of fixtures, no surprise. I also check the fixtures. I think looked at it last season when we could have finished anywhere from 3rd to 5th, and have unfortunately got used to looking at the other end of the table where we currently are. Reading's next 3, they're tough. So they've got Noel Hunt. Do you remember him?
Yeah, he's back in it for
he's in
to the end of the
caretaker.
season. So
Yeah.
they're not bringing in someone they're not bringing in someone new, so it's him, which will be interesting. If that sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. I mean, you kind of look at Wigan; it hasn't really worked. Like, is it Mahoney?
Yeah, sure, Mahoney. Yeah,
that's come in, who's ex-player and all that, and it's not really. So I'm kind of hoping it happens at Reading as well. Yeah, go through them, Brady, because they've both got difficult fixtures coming up, haven't they?
Yeah, so Reading's next 3 are Burnley, Luton, and Coventry. I mean, who knows? Because obviously, we've talked about how Town have done really well in those, unexpected fixtures. The last 5 getting all those points, but I don't know. You do look at that, and I think Burnley. Yeah, I know they've secured promotion, but I think they want to go for that points record. Yeah, Luton, very good team this season, and Coventry, well, we know what they can do. So yeah, it looks tough. I mean, yeah, Tom, were you looking at the other teams' fixtures? Cardiff, I think
QPR have also got Coventry, Norwich, and Burnley, and Stoke. So they've got a couple of games. I mean, Stoke have been on good form, haven't they? Recently, like this, Neil seems to finally have found some sort of form. But those other 3 games, teams that are still in and around that playoff hunt. I mean, that's why I kind of, Sunderland. I mean, we've got Sunderland, but I mean, I take positive because we've played teams in that area, in and around that area, and beat them. So, whereas I don't think QPR haven't pulled up any trees recently. Famous last words from me, basically saying. But yeah, I look at the results, Brady. I do those little filling in the what scores I think it's going to be and see what the table looks like. Yeah, I'm terrible. I look at the stats and everything, and that makes me even more annoyed. Like when I was looking yesterday, and Rotherham were basically what we'd done against Blackburn, had about 2 shots, 15% possession, and who were they playing? Norwich, weren't they? Norwich couldn't kind of break through and.
Yeah, come on, David.
So yeah, I'm terrible at it as well. What about you?
Yeah, well, so you talked about looking at having a little fill in. Sue Arthur says she makes a spreadsheet where she can predict results and calculate the final league table, and she says she needs a life. No, that's useful. So does that. I want to see that.
My dad, I just say one of my favourite things I remember. Well, he still does it, but growing up, he just uses the back of an envelope, and when it gets this start of the season, I bet if I went around to my mum and dad's house, there'll just be envelopes with the league table, like the bottom few. He does it all, the maths, and then writes it out. He's like, Thomas, have a look at this. This is where I think we're going to finish.
Well, I want to hear what Mr. Bradshaw thinks where we're going to finish. I want to hear that. So do let us know for the next pod.
Yeah, I will.
Lord of the Dance says, I take as little notice of everything as possible. I'm nearly 50 with high blood pressure. I have to protect myself. Fair play. And Joanne says, I look at all the results and check out Leeds and Forest too. Even if we lose, I feel better if they do too. Yeah. I watched not that we talk about the team, but I did watch the Leeds Crystal Palace game where they lost 5-1 with a Crystal Palace fan. So
brilliant.
It was good fun. Sorry, just on the results as well. I think what's really interesting before we close is Cardiff are playing Sheffield United before we play Swansea. So they're 12:30 kickoff and we're 3:00. So like you say, that could be interesting for Town because they could know, obviously they'll be going to win, but it'd be interesting if that affects anything.
And Sheffield United are close, aren't they? I mean, look at Luton.
Yeah.
Look at Luton. Third, 71. Sheffield United got the game in hand though, so
Yeah, but you know, they've got the FA Cup semi-final, haven't they? So
yeah.
We'll see.
Ooh.
We'll see. But yeah, I think that's it. So Tom, we both look at the results, don't we?
Yeah.
And we're both quietly confident about this one. So who I look forward to the 3-0 defeat.
I know, I was just thinking that then. Oh no. Oh.
But yeah, is there anything you want to say to listeners before we shoot off?
Enjoy it on Saturday. Be loud as usual. I hate going to Swansea. I've been a few times and I seem to have just seen us get beat. But I had a look and we have got a better record. We've got a good record against Swansea in over history. I think we've won 26 games and only lost 17. So positivity. We can do this. Believe in Colin. He's an absolute legend.
Here. Colin Warnock is a legend. And, you know, I think touch wood, we might be cheersing to him for helping keep us in the division coming into the season. So I can't wait for that. So we will see. But yeah, that's everything for this one. To Toff now and up the town.
Up the town.
The town play up, bring the car back to Huddersfield.